the presidential primaries of two of Nigeria's leading political parties, the ruling All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party, are now concluded. Two-time Lagos State Governor and political stalwart Bola Ahmed Tinubu today emerged the winner of the APC presidential primary, as Atiku Abubakar, a former vice president and a billionaire businessman, clinched the PDP ticket for the 2023 elections. Both Abubakar and Tinubu are joined by the presidential candidates of a few other parties, such as Peter Obi of the Labour Party and Senator Rabiu Kwakwanso of the NNPP. So what are the economic, business, investment and markets optics of these presidential hopefuls? Welcome my guests live at our Abuja studios, Paul Alaje, a senior economist at SPM Professionals. Paul, it's good to have you on the show tonight. Welcome to the program. Let me start with you. I'm expecting another guest to join you in this discussion. So let's get started, Paul. Welcome. Do you think Nigeria's 2023 general elections will end up largely a two-party contest between the ruling APC continuity and the return of the PDP at the federal level?
Thank you so very much for having me, and good evening. I strongly believe that the 2023 presidential election will be largely between two dominant political parties. We may have a third force if the remaining political parties do the needful. But as we speak, Bola Ahmed Tinubu just emerged, the presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressive Congress. And we also have Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who emerged a couple of weeks ago under the major opposition political party, talking about the People's Democratic Party. These two warlords are strong. They have spread nationwide. They have structures. They have influence. They are also very, very popular. I can tell you, if you do a sample among Nigerians, who, if they know who they are, the answer for the two will be head-to-head. I recall that in 2011, they belong to the same political, maybe not exactly 2011, but I can tell you that sometimes ago, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Bola Ahmed Tinubu belong to the same political party. They've worked together before, especially on presidential race, while Alhaji Atiku Abubakar picked the ticket. The question is, now that they are working at the opposing sides, will they provide the needful in terms of economic development for Nigeria, make policies that will ensure job creation for Nigeria, reduce unemployment, poverty reduced from over 42% according to IMF to our country? That is the question we should ask. And if any of them say yes, our next question should be, how exactly will they do this for us?
Okay, so these are two political warlords, if I may use that expression. They have a whole lot behind them. But what do we make of the other political parties, such as the Labour Party, the SDP, the NNPP, and others with their presidential hopefuls? Are these folks also in contention here? Are they front up and front in Nigeria's in the electorate eyes? Are they in the business and economic eyes? Are they in front of the organized private sector, small businesses, SMEs? Are they, if you push Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar to one side and focus on these other individuals, presidential candidates?
Well, these individuals have required maturity. Talking about Mr. Peter Obi, is one of the best when it comes to financial management. One of the major problems we have in our economy today, government will say they don't earn enough. The question is even what has been earned, have been spent. You can trust Mr. Peter Obi to a large extent when it comes to financial management. Nigeria, which is, when it comes to our budgeting, is some percentage, reasonable percentage of our problem is wastage. So, and he has continued to speak on wastage, what he would do, and so on and so forth. The question is, how popular is Mr. Obi on the other part or in other region of Nigeria? We have another man, Mr. Kwankwaso, who seems to be very, very popular in areas where we require a lot of votes, a lot of electorate, but is he savvy when it comes to economics or finance? And I think that if you truly want to have a third force, we'll be looking at a merger of these two major political parties. When you have one of them running as the president and the other one running as the vice president, that is when we can truly talk of having a third force that can also fight or can also give some challenges, if you like, to both the People's Democratic Party and All Progressive Congress. And when it comes to how they appeal the small businesses, the concern for many small businesses today is, will power supply improve from less than 4,000 megawatts to about 10,000 megawatts? I am not talking of generation. It does not mean anything to SMEs. What matters to SMEs is distribution. What is available in their homes? Will they continue to buy diesel, which we bought at about 300 naira in December? Now we are buying 760 to 800 naira. Will any of the political parties, be it the People's Democratic Party or Progressive Congress, Labour Party or the new party, which of them will help us reduce the cost now that we are not sure whether Russia-Ukraine crisis will reduce? We do not even know whether other major powers will have crisis tomorrow. So these are concerns that we may have, and that is one out of many things that small businesses are expecting.
Paul, these are some of the parts of the conversations tonight. So we're going to go back a little bit and piggyback to the two largest political parties, the APC and the PDP, and in that order because of the in terms of alphabetical order. So they feel two political big names, Tinubu and Abubakar. What are the economic policy optics of these two individuals? You said they've worked together, so they are both well known within the country and outside the country, the shores of the country. So both of them are well known. So what are the economic optics from these two individuals? Is there any significant difference in terms of how they think and what you think two of them investors or businesses could harvest from both of them?
Well, Tinubu ran a state that major financial challenges, but was able to maneuver, was able to build that state from economic crisis to one that is at the forefront, and perhaps one of the largest, if not the largest state in Nigeria. If Lagos State were to be a country, I'm sure it would be among the top 10 countries in Nigeria. Now, is he able to repeat that, what he did while he was in office between 1999 to 2007? Will he be able to repeat that with larger population, with a larger number, with different political interests when he's just the president, but the power that be that wants many things from the country, will he be able to do the same? And I can give you an instance. We had a former minister of power who was also a leader from the southwest region. He was made the minister of power, and we thought that when he became the minister of power, power would be available. That was not the case. Recently, we also had another bigwig, political bigwig, with someone that has capacity and also turn around Lagos State. But when it came to the issue of power, it seems not to be able to provide that solution to power. We are not sure if Alhaji Bola Tinubu will be able to do anything different when he gets to office. Talking about Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, we also saw that he was the deputy or the vice president to the former president Olusegun Obasanjo. We saw quite a number of economic growth during that administration. But you see, the principal had once accused his subordinate, talking about the vice president, of corruption. But in the recent time, we have seen the principal saying, well, if you search many other politicians, the same may be the case with them all. So, but you know, what we cannot say is that none of them have been president before. So what inflation will be under them, we are not sure. What unemployment will be under them, we are not sure. Okay, what poverty rate will be under them, we are not sure.
Paul,
but what is important is how are they able to attract foreign direct investment?
Yes, Paul, we're going to touch about this more. There's more to discuss on this fast-moving political circuit ahead of the 2023 election. Stand by, Paul Alaje from Abuja Studios. We'll be right back, everyone. Let's return to Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu, who are staunch members of their political parties, as the PDP ruled Nigeria for 16 years and the APC running into its 8th year in the saddle. So how would Nigeria's businesses or the organized private sector lean in the next general elections, and why? Digging for more insight from my guests from studios in Abuja, economist Paul Alaje from SPM Professionals and Professor Uche Waleke, who is a professor of the capital markets and the president of the Association of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria. Both of you gentlemen, thank you very much. Paul Alaje, thanks for coming a bit earlier. Professor Uche Owaleke, thank you very much. So let me start with Professor Owaleke. Is there any likelihood that both Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu will engineer a new socio-economic direction for Nigeria, or they remain part of the old establishment? Professor Owaleke, please.
Head or tail. Yeah, yes. Can you hear me? I'm already on. Hello?
I can hear you, Professor Owaleke.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me say up front that my candidates in that election, didn't emerge. That's talking about the primaries of the APC, and that's talking about Obonoyonu of the APC. I'm not a member of APC. I'm also not a member of PDP. As a matter of fact, I'm an academic. I'm not a member of any political party. But of course, we have sympathies for these candidates in all these parties. But the reality is that there are two dominant political parties in Nigeria: the All Progressive Congress, and of course the PDP, just as you have in the US. In the US,
Professor Owaleke, Professor Owaleke, my question, Professor Owaleke, I want you to go straight to my question. Do you think either Atiku Abubakar or Bola Tinubu will engineer a new socio-economic direction for Nigeria, or you think both of them will continue? If either of these two gentlemen emerge in 2023, do you think they will bring a new economic policy on the ground, or you think they will remain part of the old establishment of their two parties? That's my question.
Yes, yes, I heard you correctly, Basin, and I was headed to that. I was trying to say that the reality is today is that we have Atiku for PDP and Bola Tinubu for the All Progressive, the APC. Head or tail, I think they will engineer a new economic order for Nigeria. Either of them, because the two of them, in my view, are pro-market. If you look at Bola Tinubu, one thing you cannot deny him is that he is a very good. He is very good in assembling, a good team. We saw that when he was governor in Lagos State, and Atiku too, even in his private businesses, has been quite, successful. So I think either of them will, ensure that we'll have an improvement, in our economic space in 2023. But one thing I also want to note here is that none of the candidates in the primaries that we have seen, either PDP or APC, talked about the National Development Plan, which the current administration is running. We have a medium-term economic blueprint that is meant to unlock the potentials we have in all sectors of the economy, but none of them, no presidential aspirant is talking about it. It's talking about how to grow this economy by as much as 4.6% as provided in that plan. It's talking about even how to finance the whatever promises they're making, because for me that is very, very crucial. Today we have a challenge of increasing revenue from 8% to GDP to about 15% to GDP. Okay, none of them is addressing that. Today we have high debt service to revenue ratio. The World Bank has already warned that if care was not taken, this could get as far as 100%. And just the other day, the National Bureau of Statistics, and the DMO, released the debt situation as of the first quarter of 2021, over 41 trillion naira in public debt. So how will they bring about their promises, fulfill their promises, without incurring more debt, without worsening the debt situation in the country? And none of them is also talking about the exchange rate. What do we do, for example, to make the naira stronger? And Boston, if you permit me, let me quickly say this, that talking about investment into this country, either Atiku or Bola Tinubu attracting investment, okay, we can even begin with consolidating on domestic investments. We can begin with incentivizing domestic investment, because what has emerged from the primaries is that there is even money in this country, although in few hands. A lot of money is circulating outside the banking system. So how do we bring out this money to put in investments in Nigeria so that we can create jobs? And my suggestion is this. Some people have suggested very extreme, if you like, measures, extreme measures. But my own suggestion is that we can also begin now to think of redenominating the naira. Okay, if we redenominate the naira, you create an opportunity for people to bring out this money, in exchange for the new currency that you'll be issuing. So I think one way to make sure that much of the money that's circulating outside the banking system is brought out is by changing the features of the naira. One of which is by redenomination of the naira. Okay, I'm not going to fall for the other extreme suggestion of giving amnesty to those who have looted funds to bring them back. So the point I'm making is that we even have money in this country for investment in this country. Okay, if you hear of allegations of people taking 80 billion,
okay, so,
100 billion.
So that's a very important point.
And all that.
Professor
all
Waleke, you're touching a very important point about corruption and corruption. So I'm going to ask Paul Alaje of SPM Professionals. Paul Alaje, between Atiku Abubakar of the PDP and Bola Tinubu of the APC and others who are on the SDP platform or the Labour Party, Peter Obi or Kwakwanso of the NNPP. So the issue of corruption comes here, and the private sector, the organized private sector businesses would have to lean on one of them to become Nigeria's new CEO, unless something has happened between now and then. So how do you think the business and investment community will decide on who will bring in investment, who will be a wheeler-dealer, and where corruption is hanging very obviously in the entire political process and the conversation we're having?
Well, there are many antidotes to corruption. But the one I love the most amongst them is transparency. Anything that is done in secrecy could go wrong. You want to breed cockroaches, create darkness, then you're going to see cockroaches. You want to chase the flies out, let the place be provide light, then you are going to see some level of house cleaning. What we need, or what private sector will be looking out for, will be who we provide policy, who is communicating policy that is transparent, who we make the environment to be competitive. For the major candidates, whether we call it Mr. Tinubu, or we call it Alhaji Abubakar, or we call it Mr. Peter Obi, or we call it Mogalu, or we call it Kwankwaso, all of these people seem to be market, they seem to support market system. From all the conversation and all the discussion they are having. But their policies that we can handle is speaking less of how they will make the market to become more competitive, how transparent they will be. Will there be punishment for corrupt individuals, especially those in public sector? Those are things that we have not seen, and we hope that in the coming days or coming weeks, they'll be stronger so that private sector can decide as to who can help them improve in terms of foreign direct investment and also local investment within our country.
Why would, who will the market want? I know the businesses understand there will always be some corrupt government officials, but then you've got to put individuals, is Nigeria stuck between these two individuals, by the way? Do you think it's all down to these two individuals who are multi-businessmen, who are political bigwigs, or do you think the investment and the markets will be looking for perhaps a third person or someone out of these two individuals? That's my question here. Paul, very quickly.
Okay, so a lot of things that private sector wants, especially those of us in manufacturing, quite a number of things that we need. Number one is, how do we get stabilized FX? One moment, central bank tells us that the FX you have at official window is going to be made available for some lease, and you merit even talking about processing and manufacturing. But you have to wait over and over, and suppliers are sending you another set of invoices saying that because your time has elapsed, you need to now pay more. We have FX challenges too. Port management. We cannot continue to experience gridlock. You have your goods arrive from outside in terms of equipment or input that you need, which are not available in our country. But you now need more days. Because you are paying for more days, you have to pay terminal owners, you have to pay.
Well, respectfully, I understand the problem, and everybody here understands the problem. We are looking for solutions. So the question is, between the APC and the PDP, the two main political parties, my question is this. Do you think these individuals, on the basis of their political parties and individualism of both of them, Atiku Abubakar and Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who do you think will really bring something to the table? If you look at the PDP privatizations during 1999 to 2013 and 14, we saw a whole lot of issues around port concessioning and all of that. I'm talking about political pillars here. That's what I want you to, that's my question.
Okay, so when it comes to fighting corruption, I think when you look at the party structure, APC seems to speak more against corruption than that of the PDP. When it comes to market orientation, you want to give it to the PDP because over the years, PDP has presented herself as a party that wants to support market system. While when you look at the website of APC, it has been around planned economy. So when you look at those two, then you will give it to one. When you also look at who we make our market to be open, who we open up Nigeria, again, when you look at what APC is doing, then you say that perhaps we are not open enough to the rest of the world. Until very recently, that we start seeing policies that will make Nigeria to be more open, to the rest of the world. But during PDP, we seem to see that. But when it comes to investment, then you will not just need to talk about APC, then you need to talk about Mr. Tinubu, because he seems to know, he seems to have almost equal influence with Mr. Atiku Abubakar to bring foreign direct investment to the country, to shop for the best air to run the country, and also to improve the economic atmosphere. I would say that Mr. Tinubu seems to present himself as a better candidate, haven't tried it with the state in Lagos. At that time, some of the funds that should go to Lagos were not coming. Yet, we did not see Lagos on our news. We've seen Mr. Tinubu brought some of his best to run Lagos, and of course, who also grew. We are still seeing some of them within the polity today. And I think that when it comes to the running of the economy, we will be expecting, we are hopeful that Mr. Tinubu will do a lot more for the country.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Professor Waleke about the choice of the next president. Do you think it's an easy one? If you look at investment and the financial markets, what would you want to see in 2023? Let's speak directly to the markets now when you talk about foreign portfolio investment, foreign direct investment. Do you think these individuals will be able, either of them, or Peter Obi of the Labour Party, or Kwakwenso has what it takes to pick up the phone and talk to the folks on Wall Street, or talk to the World Bank and the IMF or the WTO and say, this is Nigeria's investment, this is what we need? Do you think any of these folks can hit the ground running from day one?
Yes, I think so. And I think Peter Obi in particular will influence a lot of foreign direct investments, particularly from China and from Asia. If you look at the recent report by the National Bureau of Statistics in terms of capital importation reports, much of it, the latest one, over 60% of it came by way of foreign portfolio investments. Other investments accounted for about 20%, and then foreign direct investments, which is the critical one, that creates jobs, less than 10%. And if you also look at that investment by destination, or rather by source, the UK and USA and South Africa, accounted for the bulk of it. So we have not seen much of foreign investment coming from Asia, and these are countries that are known for, huge foreign direct investments in other parts of the world. So, and I think Peter Obi, is in a position to attract that. But again, I also think Bola Tinubu, given his records in Lagos State, if you notice, Lagos State is the highest indebted state, in the country, and that's because Lagos State has leveraged the potentials we have in the capital market, in particular to develop Lagos State. Lagos State is one example of a state that has taken good advantage of public-private partnerships, and I want to say this, translated at the national level. If I
like that, so I want to see if I may just take that state out of your
article.
If I may take that straight out of your mouth, Professor Waleke, respectfully, do you think Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be able to build another Lagos outside Lagos? Nigeria is bigger, demographically speaking, than Lagos State. So give it to, let's have that in mind. We have that Lagos seems to be the poster boy, but we can't have a country with just one state. So we need to have 10, 20 of Lagos within the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Who will be able to build that?
Yes, and if you also look at the investments that are coming in, Lagos is accounting for the bulk of it, and then Abuja.
But we need to diversify this investment. It cannot be Lagos alone. We need to diversify it to the north, to the north central, to the southeast, to the southwest. That's my point here.
That's also the point I'm making. I am saying that that will be possible now when you bring him, to the national level, where he needs to recognize that it's not just Lagos State now. That he's talking about Nigeria. The same for Atiku Abubakar too. I'm not just talking about Bola Tinubu. I also think Atiku Abubakar is also in a position to attract investments, particularly from the Middle East, particularly from Saudi Arabia, from the UAE. A lot more investments are going to come in if we have an Atiku Abubakar. That's why I said head or tail, the country will be better off. But again, that depends on who they bring in as their running mates. I think if Atiku Abubakar chooses a running mate from the southeast, it is going to really boost his chances. And in terms of the economy, you can be sure the economy, will be better for it. But if the two of them make wrong choice of a running mate, that can also affect their performance.
Okay, great. So let's widen the conversation, gentlemen, Professor Waleke and Paul Alaje. Thank you both. Now, my question to you, Paul, is that Nigeria needs a president who will be able to stand right there in the middle of his colleagues, globally speaking, who will hit the ground running in terms of economic diplomacy, who will be able to junket all over the world and bring in these hard investments in. So who among these individuals who are already lined up as today, the 8th of June, 2022, do you think is best positioned to do that? We need a new global economic direction. The world is moving. Things are changing.
Well, when you look at Mr. Bola Tinubu, he seems to have that posture of a leader. He has remained the leader of the ruling party for 7 years. And when it comes to entertaining African leaders, there are quite a number of African leaders who have met him. And I also believe that he can stand at the global space. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is also someone who seems to have friends, not just within the country, but investment and investors outside the countries. I will also want to give to these two. So when it comes to who will not be intimidated or who we have a voice and speak for Nigeria, I think this duo will pass for the two. But more importantly, I think Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, based on what he has done in Lagos, based on the influence he has, the fact that he also is also a member of the ruling party, I think I want to give it to him, more importantly.
Okay, my take here is, if you permit me, Watson.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Watson.
Please go ahead. Professor Waleke, please go
ahead. Yes, I agree. The two of them are fine, Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar. But I think the better candidate in terms of what you're asking, positioning the country, in the Committee of Nations to attract, particularly to attract investments in Nigeria, is a P2B. That's my take. Given that it's not only widely traveled, we also know, he has very clean records, relatively clean records, and I think that's also what investors, are looking at. They want somebody that is perceived. Perception is very important. That is perceived to be clean, and somebody they can trust, and that's why I think a P2B would stand heads and shoulders above these other two.
So when it comes
if I can just put something as to conclude my thought initially, is that what you attract to a large extent will also be influenced by the NPR of your country. Which of these two understand the concept of NPR? Do they even know, among all candidates, why Central Bank and the remaining part of the Monetary Policy Committee meet every 2 months to decide what NPR NPR will be? And what is the implication of those on investment? Anyone that can decide that, we know whether we will have foreign direct investment or not. And if you flash back 2015, 2016, when the incumbent says JP Morgan's lead does not matter much, you knew what happened to our country in terms of foreign direct investment. It's one of the contributors to why Nigeria went into a recession at the time, even though that was not the main factor, but one of the major factors why we had to be in recession for some months before, thankfully, we were able to recover.
I'm interested in this conversation. It's getting a little bit warmer, so I'm asking my folks at the production desk to give me a little bit more time. Because we're getting to the heart of it all here, Professor Waleke and Paul Alaje, in terms of where the country should really be. We need investments. We need the one who can be the front guy. The president of a country is the chief marketing officer. So you need a president who's not going to demarcate the country in any means. You need a president who will be able to speak with his colleagues and multilateral, bilateral institutions straight and forward. Look at Egypt, for example. Look at President al-Sisi and what he's achieving. Look at a few other African leaders. Even with the Brexit, Uhuru Kenyatta in Kenya has secured a deal with the US and the UK, even at the heat of Brexit. So we need a president. Nigeria wants a CEO like that moving forward. So my question, who among these guys? Atiku Abubakar, very strong, as you said, Professor Waleke, in the Middle East. So you've got Peter Obi for looking to the Asians and Bola Ahmed Tinubu looking to the West. How do we bring these three together? Professor Waleke, let me start with you.
That's why, yes, as if you are looking at, if you are looking to have a very good marketer for the country, of course, you give it to the professional marketer amongst them. The professional marketer amongst them is, Peter Obi. This is my personal view, though. My personal view is that I think Peter Obi should have or ought to have remained, in PDP, because ultimately the president of this country, in my view, given realities, is likely going to come from either one of the two dominant parties. So if he had remained in the PDP, that would have given him a better opportunity, to actualize some of his dreams for Nigeria. Now that he's in Labour Party, let's see how far it goes. But I also think that the three of them can actually work together, really. And the good thing is that they're even friends. Atiku is, a friend of Bola Tinubu, and whoever emerges, I'm sure too that the other will support, in one way or the other.
Interesting, Paul Alaje, in terms of the Labour Party. So, what is the ideology within the Labour Party? If it's a Labour and everybody in Nigeria is a labourer in one way or the other, and that's not a very demeaning phrase there, or a word there, phrase to use, a description, as it were. When you say labourer, Nigerians are enterprising, entrepreneurial, and what a view millions of Nigerians on a daily basis looking for their means of livelihood. So this is a very enterprising country, and we've seen that demonstrated in ICT and in other SMEs and other views. So we need a president. What's there in the Labour Party, by the way?
Well, a lot is in the Labour Party. By the way, when we talk of labor, economics is not referring to laborers. Labor is one of the factors of production: land, labor, capital, and the entrepreneur. And that's usually reduced in production function to capital and labor. Labor is so very significant. If Labour Party does what he has on paper, I can tell you that the next president will come from Labour Party. If you have all NLC, you have all professionals vote for the candidate of the Labour Party, then money will not deliver our next election. What Labour Party should look for, because Labour Party has a very strong candidate, very cerebral candidate, a candidate has also run a state before, and we have testimonies from the limited resources the state has and was able to manage through. And this candidate has also managed a commercial bank. It's a lot. And that is what private sector is looking for. But does the candidate have a spread nationwide? Does the party have influence? When you compare what happened in 2014 in terms of merger that led to All Progressive Congress, the ruling party today, compare that to what Labour Party is trying to do today, I don't know if the time is not appearing to be a bit late, or except and unless Labour Party, we have to double up the speed, maybe to talk to a few more political parties, so that Mr. Peter Obi, who we know that when it comes to economic policy, we will be shocked for him not to perform. But as of today, I also have very much confidence that if Mr. Peter Obi becomes the president of Nigeria, he will market Nigeria appropriately, he will manage our finances correctly, and he will also want professionals to manage the country. But we also need to bear in mind that Nigeria challenges is not limited to economy or finance, but economy plays one of the key dominant role, because the things we are challenging, there are two monsters. We have governance, in which insecurity is one of the things because of governance challenges. Some individuals are collecting taxes within our territory, meanwhile they are not part of the government. And we also have economics and infrastructure. We have road decadence, we have all manner of issues that affect economy. The two are twins. You cannot separate them. There is no best doctor that can separate them. You have to solve the problem together. And this is the challenge before Mr. Peter Obi, not just him, Alhaji Ahmed Bola Tinubu, and also Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, among other major candidates and aspirants that are yet to be confirmed, a candidate that are confirmed in the coming election in 2023.
So if Labour concerns everyone in Nigeria, Professor Uche Waleke, so why does the party do not seem to have such a large followership in a country such as Nigeria, where Labour is important, where you have a very huge informal economy and everybody's laboring to have their daily bread, with a problem of electricity, infrastructure, a poor exchange rate, and what have you. And this party that even by its banner, speaks to the common man, does not have the common man as its main base.
Yes, I was trying to make an analogy at the outset. I told you that in many countries, in many democracies that I know, there are usually two dominant parties. In the US, you hear of Reform Party, you hear of Socialist Party, you hear of Green Party. US is a multi-party system, and yet we have two dominant parties. You have the Democrats, okay, and then you have the Republicans. In the UK, the same, the Conservatives and Labour. So in Nigeria, there are two dominant parties. So if you have any other party, the party will only, in politics they talk about a structure. These dominant parties I'm talking about, you find them in virtually all the local government areas in Nigeria. But you can't say the same for Labour. You can't say the same for NNPP. You can't say the same for SDM. So except all these other parties come together. And even if they come together, you will also realize that they may not form a formidable force, except part of one of the dominant parties, okay, joins them. Like we had during the formation of the All Progressive, the APC, when a number of when even the PDP, part of a faction of PDP left to join to form that party. So I think that is what the issue is. Two dominant parties. So. And that is a reality, and that's why when I was talking about the reality. For me, we have a very competent person in P2B, but the platform I thought he could have used to actualize some of his dreams, would have been the PDP. If not now, maybe in the nearest future. But Labour Party, in my view, is a smaller platform, and it will take. It's not about months. We just have between now and February to do the election. It will take quite some time before that kind of party will, have the kind of structure, if you like, to challenge any of these, dominant parties.
So in terms of, yes, you got the presidential candidates, but Professor Waleke, you mentioned this, you touched on this very briefly in your comments, earlier comments about the choice of the vice president for these presidential candidates and the team, because it's all about a teamwork. So that's what I'm going to ask. Let me get the thoughts of Paul Alaje first in terms of the choice of vice president. What is it? Have to be rotational, or it has to be the best man for the job at this point? Because the ship of the economy is in troubled waters. So are you going to choose whether the vice president is short, tall, black, yellow, whatever color, or language, or ethnic, or we want the best man to be the deputy, the vice president, and then move things forward very quickly? We need to hit the ground running.
Well, yes, we need to read the ground running, but politicians will look for who is of electoral value to them first, because for them to be president, they need to win elections, whether directly or indirectly. So Mr. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is faced with the option of picking that person from the south, because if he has another candidate from the north, then it means you have neglected the entire southern Nigeria. And when you go to southern Nigeria, you have three geopolitical zones: the southeast, the south-south, and the southwest. So which party, which region can give you bulk votes from this region, knowing fully well that southwest also have their own running as a president in the other party? Do you want to break the vote? What will happen to southeast and south-south? Those are options. But more importantly, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar needs to employ someone who can complement his weaknesses in terms of economy and security. That is the candidate for him. For Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he needs to find someone who will help him in terms of insecurity, because it is also a major challenge. Even though he's pro-market, he's also someone that has managed a state before. But when it comes to the direction as it affects the armed forces, who is that person that will give the advice? And that must come from the northern region. For Mr. Peter Obi, it must come from northern region, so that you don't have people, president and the vice president, coming from the same region.
And finally, from Professor Uche Waleke tonight, what's your take on the choice of the cabinet?
Yes, my take is that in all these arrangements, you notice that the Southeast in particular has been shortchanged. None of these parties zone their presidential candidates to the Southeast. It is said that two regions in this country, in terms of presidential power, have been shortchanged. They talk about the Southeast, they talk about the Northeast. Therefore, I expect that the APC presidential candidate should look towards the Northeast for the running mate. I also expect that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of the PDP should look towards the Southeast, for a running mate. That way, you could say, at least instead of having nothing at all, at least they're having something, rather than shutting out these two regions. Southeast in particular and the Northeast, must be considered in the choice of running mates.
Well, thank you both for your time on the show tonight. Paul Alaje, senior economist at SPM Professionals, and Professor Uche Waleke, professor of capital markets. Have a great evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show, everyone. The political edition of the show tonight. We wish you a great evening.